Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where a husband and wife team go over all the storytelling, world building, and characters of video games. Because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep, and this is episode 67.
Woohoo!
Now, before we get into the episode, and you'll have a little buffer before we get into it, even after this usual spiel. If you'd like to contact us, you can do that over on Twitter and Instagram at Lore Together. You can do that through email at loretogether@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's two ways you can help us. One is give us a 5-star review wherever you can. Really helps a lot. Second thing is support us on Patreon over on patreon.com/loretogether, where you can pay a per episode pledge to get early access to episodes as well as special videos and other things.
Yay! Special videos and other things.
Yeah, basically you get early access to my Skyrim Let's Play, early access to my blind videos, because now we're getting to stuff where I haven't played it.
Right.
So, and we do have a Patreon mini episode that we have to still put out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have one that we have to edit down.
Gosh.
So, anyway,
So I tweeted this out, but Mystic had warned this is going to hit us in the feels.
Okay, so just a warning. This game is pretty heavy. It's going to hit hard. Safi and or I will tear up at some point for sure. And in general, it deals with some very vivid images of imminent death and discussions of death.
But we're here to talk about storytelling in video games, and if death is not an ever-present theme in human storytelling, then I don't know what else would be. It's
right.
Probably one of the most prolific.
Yeah. Now, there is no gore here in the game. I mean, okay, there is gore, but there's one gore scene, and it's stylized in a way you'll see why. But
yeah,
all the deaths are somewhat stylized, almost fantastical.
Okay, so this is not the game I thought we were. At first, I came in with a guess, but I don't think it's the one.
Right.
I don't think it's the one that.
But we are discussing deaths of all ages, including a 1-year-old.
Oh.
And we
great.
will also discuss a suicide.
Oh.
So be warned. And if you have to sit out, we understand, and we hope to catch you in the next episode.
Please take care of yourself. We have 66 other episodes for you to enjoy, and we understand if this is not the one for you.
Okay, so we're not going to play the game of what game is this. What game did you think it was?
I thought it was The Binding of Isaac.
No.
When you said it wasn't that gory and it was more fantastical, I was like, I don't think this is what he's talking about.
So this is a game called What Remains of Edith Finch.
Oh, I know I've heard of this one.
You've probably heard of this.
I know of this one.
This is a 2017 game by Giant Sparrow.
Another recent one. We're just keeping with the last decade.
And published by Annapurna Interactive. Expect to see more of them, as they seem to have a knack for the deep story games like this one. Other ones we will cover like Gone Home, Telling Lies, and Kentucky Route Zero, as well as one we have covered already, Outer Wilds.
Yes.
So
we're going back to one of our favorites, essentially.
Yes.
But I know what remains of Edith Finch. I remember hearing good things about it.
Yes.
I do not remember
anything about it beyond
I don't
hearing
remember
good
anybody
things.
telling us what it was about.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they talk about it online, are very vague. You know, if you're just doing a tweet or a mention in an article, because you don't want to spoil it. Well,
we're going to spoil it. But as with our rest of our recent run of games, we have a ton of awards. Best narrative from the Game Awards, excellence in narrative from South by Southwest, best narrative from the Game Developers Choice Awards, best game from the 14th BAFTA Awards.
Whoa!
A slew of nominations for Game of the Year, as well as all the technical and artsy stuff as well.
Can I just say, when we talk about the things that are nominated and end up getting BAFTAs, it feels like it's gaining more and more credibility as other award shows like the Emmys, the Grammys, and the Oscars are getting less and less credibility with the people who follow them.
Well, British Academy of Film and Television Arts is actually covering games, unlike the Oscars or the Emmys or whatever. So
yeah, I think
It's like they're actually progressing with the times. And
yeah, I think that's the problem is that you have to have a voting board who is willing to evolve.
Yeah.
And I guess because Britain has such a long storied history with theater and this kind of storytelling in a way that America doesn't, it might be easier for them to think about evolution in terms of scale.
Right.
I don't know. That's just a theory. Feel free to @me on Twitter if that's totally wrong and you have another theory and we could talk about it. I'd love to.
So the game is a first-person game, but it kind of twists and turns that definition sometimes and makes it feel like kind of one of the first games we've covered that actually uses the medium of gaming itself to tell a story rather than simply making a game to tell a story, if that makes sense. I have seen people complain that it is just a walking simulator. However, in my opinion, those people are never happy unless there's some gameplay system to learn and master. So,
yeah, kind of like it, like when we think of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, there's still a thing you have to try to perfect in order to get the memory, which
and even that's a walking simulator.
Yeah,
so.
and even to a certain extent, it felt a little silly and it got a little glitchy. Whereas if you just really just want to use an interactive visual medium, just do it, guys. There's nothing wrong with that.
Now, part of the reason this one may come across more raw or more, I don't know, descriptive for me than usual is, okay, so for those of you who don't know, I've started doing videos of my blind first hour playing a game for our patrons. And now we're getting into, like, I've started doing this now because we're starting to get into games that I have not played.
Right, so you're going to be surprised by them.
However, this is the first time I've gone in 100% blind.
Oh.
I had no idea what the game was about at all. Like, I knew that it was lauded, but I had no idea anything else about it. I didn't even look at any screenshots. I didn't even know where I picked it up from. It probably just got into a humble choice where I just got everything.
Right. The humble bundles is something that this household definitely has embraced in their multiple mediums of bundling.
So with Control, which we covered a couple episodes ago, I knew that it had some shady government thing going on, and it was third person.
Right.
Okay. With the Forgotten City, I had played a tiny bit of the mod that it was based off of, which the story changed, but I knew it was going to be like underground city, weird stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This one, no idea. So it kind of hit me a bit harder than it probably would have going in knowing a little bit of what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with someone reading a book on a boat. And this book is the journal of one Edith Finch.
Okay. So that is already what remains of Edith Finch.
As we read, we shift and see things from her perspective as she comes home to Orcas Island, Washington.
So we're in the United States,
yes,
Northwest United States. I don't know. Because so many of our listeners are international, I always feel the need to clarify where that is. We like the Northwest part of the continental North America because great weather, great scenery.
Yeah.
But we've been to Vancouver. We have not been to Washington State.
Right. Inside the journal is a family tree, by the way, which will come to be very important as we progress because we'll be talking about all the people who are named in it and the strange ways that they all meet their fate.
Oh, so that's the kind of death that we're talking about. Are we doing a bit of a 6 Feet Under thing here? Do you know that show, Mystic?
I do not. I've heard of it, but I have no idea what it is.
This is actually, so there's a long time growing up as a teenager where my family loved HBO because HBO was doing a lot of what TV's doing now in its current renaissance of, storytelling with a theme and a point. And one of the earlier shows that was doing was 6 Feet Under. And it was about a family. The series started with the patriarch of this funeral home business dying and the two sons having to take it over. And because the family is broken, running the business is kind of this weird broken endeavor. And each episode highlights a funeral that they provided the services for one way or another.
Sure, a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
So it's a lot of, and in fact, it is credited for having one of the best finales because the finale just goes through and all these family members you've watched throughout the series, you get to see how they all pass away.
Oh, okay.
And it was so basically you felt a lot of closure because it's the whole show is about
Everybody's
death.
dead. Yeah.
Then you knew how everybody died. It was
Okay.
It was a very interesting. There were a lot of good actors in it whose names I'm completely. I think the guy who was the lead in Dexter got his start in that show. So anyway,
I haven't seen Dexter either, but
which first season's great, but yeah. Anyway,
we're basically going to be doing through a bunch of vignettes as we explore this family, kind of.
Like that. So it's similar-ish
Yeah.
to 6 Feet Under.
So
okay.
Edith is approaching her family home through the woods of the Pacific Northwest. We see missing posters here for Milton Finch, Edith's lost brother.
How long has he been lost?
I don't remember at the top of my head, honestly.
Wow.
It's been a while. I think he disappeared when she was 4. She's
Whoa.
17, I think, now in the game.
So that's a formative experience in her life.
Yeah.
Okay.
She says it was just like the house swallowed him up. Like, no trace.
Wow.
And I can believe that. And there's no simple way to put this. The house just does not look structurally sound. The house that clearly was the base makes sense, but there's like towers on one side of rooms being held up by giant support columns and beams and stuff.
That already sounds pretty fantastical when you ask
This is
me.
definitely fantastical reality.
Do you think it's playing with the idea of memory maybe with that?
It's definitely playing with people who like to write and paint.
Okay.
We can't get into the front door, but the garage has an old doggy door that we can crawl through. Entering, we are met with a house that is completely stuck in a moment of time. There's packing peanuts in boxes everywhere, and everything is stuck of the night of December 5th, 2010, the last night that Edith was in the house.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, it's not like physically stuck, but nothing's been moved since then.
Okay.
So within the house, we do find one truly weird thing. Almost all the doors to most of the bedrooms and one bathroom are barred, like with a wooden plank, and sealed shut to the point they have expanding foam, like in the cracks of the door. Like you cannot open these doors.
It almost feels like an old quarantine scene or something like that.
They all also have peepholes that you can see in.
This also feels about as contrived as when we did, oh man, the game that was premiered on Xbox about the twins trying to remember what happened to their mother.
Tell me why.
Tell me why.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was about to say Gone something, but no. Tell me why. You know that their mother's room had that lock on it
Yeah.
that they finally had to figure out.
It's not that contrived. There's no puzzle here.
Yeah.
Literally, when someone died, the family just locked up their room, which is why there were rooms built up on top when more family members joined.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's bizarre. Okay.
yeah, and all the peoples have little dates beneath them of birth and death, including the bathroom. We'll get there.
Oh, that's not good. That's really not good. Okay.
So far we can see the rooms for Molly, Calvin, and Sam, who are twins, Barbara, Walter, Gregory, Gus, Sven, and Edie.
That's like 8 rooms?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's a big house. This was a rich family at one point.
Rich enough that they could just seal away rooms after somebody died instead of just...
Richer than that, believe me.
rather than just moving. Jeez.
Oh, the house moved too. We'll get there.
What the heck is going on?
So basically, each room is kind of like a shrine to a deceased person in a weird way. Gregory's is the pink bathroom, by the way, still sealed. Everyone else seems to be in their bedroom. So you want to dig into this macabre show?
This is such unhealthy grieving, but I'm...
Very much so.
It's
Very much so.
You know, it's one thing, like, I've heard stories of, like, you know, when a parent, God forbid, when a parent loses a child, for years they keep that room the same way, and it helps their grieving process. There does come a point where you need to move on, but that's not one I would push because that's such an unexpected loss.
Yeah.
But, like, for I hate to say it, Mystic, but Mystic, if something were to happen to you and you were to pass away, I would have to reconfigure our home because little Buddy is a growing child with needs, and I would have to figure out what my life would mean as, at least for that point, a single mom. Like,
yeah.
Or there's no way you couldn't embrace some change if you were going to move forward.
I agree completely.
So I want to just say that because there is
also get a therapist.
Yeah. Oh, get a therapist. I would get a therapist because everybody should after a huge unexpected tragedy like that, if you are able to. But I just wanted to highlight that there is some nuance to it. But the idea that a whole house has to be a shrine to the dead, you've officially made it a crypt at that point, and that's just, why would you live there?
Yeah. So there is one room that is open. Edith's great uncle Walter's room.
Okay.
It's not sealed at all, but it's also completely empty inside. Basically, all there is fish and stuff on the wall, like painted, like the walls are painted, and that's it. There's nothing else in here. So somebody moved out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the only thing in here that Edith finds is a book with a lock on it. Her mother, when she passed, gave her a key. This is what it unlocks.
Oh, the book in her great uncle
Walter's room.
Okay.
Yeah. So opening the book, you find a lever.
What?
Yeah. It's basically not a book. It's like a decoy thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And this opens a hidden passage to Molly's room. And now we start to explore the different people. Molly is Edith's maternal great aunt and lived from 1937 until 1947.
Okay.
We find her diary in her room on top of a memorial doily thing.
Interesting. Okay.
It's the weirdest thing. So the room, I commented on this when I was doing my 1 hour Let's Play. The room is exactly as it was the day she died, except her diary and this doily with the dates of her, like the birth year and death year on it, are added. Like, that's the only thing that's changed.
So it is really a shrine, a crypt. Yeah. Oh, my Lord.
And there's an entry for the day that she dies.
Oh.
I won't read the whole thing, but it begins with, "Dear Diary, I will be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's going to happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat. And then we play as Molly. You will play as each of these characters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Including, like, if you look down, you will see, like, this is one of those games you can see yourself.
So she's in a 1947's dress for a 10-year-old girl. Yeah. Okay.
Or nightgown or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have various options that she can eat. Gerbil food.
Ooh.
Her candy is gone. She won't eat the fish. A tube of fluoridated toothpaste.
No.
As well as a sprig of holly.
No.
These are all terrible things to eat, by the way.
No, don't eat any of that. Especially, it's getting worse as you go down the list. Gerbil food, survivable, I would think. Fluoridated toothpaste from the 40s.
For a 10-year-old, not as survivable.
Questionable at best.
Holly berries are actually probably the safest here.
What? I thought the sprig of holly was poisonous.
The berries are poisonous, but it would take like 20 of them, and the sprig itself only has like 5. So
still, I wouldn't eat that, though.
Yeah, don't eat any of these. But we have no options. These are our 3 options.
Oh, that's awful.
I know. I'm sitting there playing it. I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I have
think
to.
At 10 years old, you would at least not tell your mom, I'm hungry.
She did, but her mother was like, it's early. Go to sleep. Like, it's 3 a.m. or go to sleep or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So, basically, you eat one of those. I ate the toothpaste and the gerbil food. And then she hears a bird outside in the window, and she basically tries to get to the bird and becomes a cat that chases the bird. Then it's kind of like a little platforming thing. Luckily for you, it's very forgiving platforming.
I hope so. Oh, yeah, I really hope so.
Yeah. Then after you catch that bird, you become an owl that swoops after rabbits. Then after you do that, you become a shark that hunts a seal. By the way, you have to jump down a mountainside as the shark.
So, but these are all games about animals hunting food.
Bigger and bigger food, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, after the shark hunts the seal, you become a sea monster that boards a ship and eats people.
And then suddenly, it's Return of the Obra Dinn.
And then, as the sea monster, we also slither up a drain pipe and end up under her own bed. And then we pick up the diary entry again. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed. And we both know I will be delicious. End of diary.
What the heck?
We honestly have no idea how Molly actually dies. Some suggest that the stuff she eats, which is certainly plausible. Some suggest she is sick with something and having a fever dream.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a fever dream to me.
Yeah, we don't know how Molly actually dies. But needless to say, she has one heck of an imagination.
Yeah, I would say, just thinking about fever dreams, I was reading something really scary about how quickly meningitis can take you if you...
I think it's like less than 24 hours, isn't it?
Yes. I've read some really scary stuff on what can happen. And including one where a family driving from Germany back home in the UK, their child was perfectly fine, but just feeling a little sick in the back seat. He was like 15. And by the time they got to the UK, he was dead.
Ooh.
So they had to drive around to try to find a hospital to take care of their son's body. It was, I'm glad we have a warning in front of this because like that stuff is scary. And then like back in the 40s, I would think that getting vaccinated or the knowledge of such is not as prevalent. Right. So I would think it'd be a fever dream or something like that. But that's just me because.
Luckily, meningitis is pretty rare. All things considered.
Mostly, yeah. It's just very scary.
Oh, no, it is.
Yeah.
Like any disease. So moving on from Molly's room through another secret passage, we find Edie and Sven's room. Now we don't have
twins, yes, right?
No.
Oh.
Edie is Edith's grandmother.
Oh,
Edith is sometimes called Edie Jr.
Oh, that's cute. Okay.
And Sven was her husband. Yeah, the twins will come later.
Okay.
We don't have a scene here from Edie because we'll have that later. And we don't have one for Sven. We just know that Sven dies from a collapsing dragon slide he was working on.
A collapsing dragon?
Like a big slide, but it was shaped to look like a dragon.
Okay, so he's making probably a toy for the kids or space for the kids.
Giant thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
Edie says he died fighting a dragon. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Odin is Edith's great-grandfather, Edie's father. We get his story here through like a newsreel, like still images newsreel in an old Viewmaster.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And his story is kind of how the story of how the house and the family came to be here.
Oh, okay.
So despite the family being rich with fortune in Norway, they were also famously unfortunate with deaths in the family. So Odin left Norway to escape the family curse, literally puts his house on a boat and sails away when the house is wrecked off the coast of Washington. Now,
wait. Hold the friggin' phone for a moment here. You thought bringing the house with the curse would remedy this it's on a different continent, so it's not going to have any of the bad juju that I'm trying to get rid of.
The house sank off the coast of Washington. Now, I have no idea how you get from Norway to Washington.
That's a heck of a journey. I mean, that means you just did a Magellan and like you circumvented like a whole.
Why don't you go to Nova Scotia? Like,
yeah. You know, either you basically sailed all the way south past the tip of South America.
Or you went all the way around the world.
Or you went all the way around the other way. I mean, there's just so many straits you'd have to go. Okay, never mind.
So basically, he drowns when the house goes under. He gets drowned in in the wreck.
Okay.
So Odin is the first member of the Finch family to be buried in the new family cemetery, which was finished before the new house was. Which, fair, you have someone to bury already.
That's also easier to build.
Yeah.
Here's a fence, here's a plot, here's your bodies.
We passed through the pink bathroom that we saw before, which had Gregory's name on it, but there's nothing here except for a book on how to find a hidden passage in the bathroom, which we find a hidden passage in the bathroom that leads to a secret dark room.
Oh.
For those of you who don't know or maybe too young to know, a darkroom is where you develop film before we had digital cameras.
Yes. The idea was that you had to have a special photosensitive paper that would need a treatment in certain chemicals
Yes.
to reveal what was captured.
Yeah.
We now have this great thing called JPEGs. Which,
Well, we have photocell receptors.
Yes.
And we can print out stuff with inkjet printers.
Yeah, so it's not as necessary, though it is still a very important art that people should study.
Yeah, no. You can still take photography classes that still use dark labs, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we eventually get out of the darkroom and come out in Calvin and Sam's shared bedroom. Calvin is Edith's great uncle. Sam is her grandfather.
Oh.
They're both born in 1950. Calvin only lived until 1961. Sam lived until 1983.
Wow. That's
And-
still young, too. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. We know pretty quick, even if we don't remember the dates on the doors, that one of them died young. Calvin's height lines on the door simply stop while Sam's don't.
Oh, man.
So Sam is into the Army and Marines, and Calvin is a space head, which gives kind of makes sense for both of them.
Yeah.
They're little kids in the 50s and 60s.
Right, exactly.
So exploring above Calvin's bed, which was roped off, like the whole side of the room was roped off.
Oh, so to preserve that side of the...
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So basically above Calvin's bed is a little loft area where we find his command center, because again, space head.
Mm-hmm.
There we find a story written by Sam. Calvin always wanted to go over the top of the branch to which the swing down by the sea was connected.
Oh.
But he had always been too scared to. However, after their sister Barbara's funeral the year before, they told each other that they wouldn't be scared of anything anymore. So he tried to swing all the way around, do a 360. The wind picked up and he managed to do it, but as he swung around, he was flung from the sea towards the ocean and into the rocks below.
No.
As Sam says, he died trying to overcome his fears. By the way, you have to actually do the kicking motion with the W and S keys. It's, yeah.
That is such a mind trip to be like, I'm going to do the thing that is probably...
Oh, no, that's what we're doing through this whole game.
contributing to my demise.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of a hard deterministic view.
Yeah. That's why I
throughout
was
the
with
game.
Molly, I'm like, I have to eat one of these. I know that these are not good things to eat.
This is tough.
Then we get to Barbara's room. Now, Barbara is Edith's great aunt, 1944 to 1960. She was a childhood star for 2 years.
Doing what?
She starred in a horror film called My Friend Bigfoot. Or at least I think it's horror. She was known for her scream.
Okay.
So her final moments are shared through a comic book about her death.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like, there's a pumpkin-headed character who's imagine Tales of the Crypt.
Right.
So it's like the Crypt Keeper is this pumpkin-headed person who's got the crazy voice to go with it. We also have music in here, including the theme from Halloween, which John Carpenter agreed to license.
Oh, John Carpenter. We love you. Thank you.
So Barbara has gotten older, and she is struggling with life away from the limelight. Suddenly, she is invited to a horror convention, BeastieCon 60.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So that fans can hear her scream, but it isn't the same as it once was. Obviously, she's not a child anymore.
Yeah, no, it's called growing up.
Yeah, in one interpretation of the story, the attendees, including her boyfriend Rick, want to scare her. So there's a scream of old returns, and when she returns to the Finch house after the con to look after her younger brother Walter, Rick scares her. Then, many of the horror fans show up to surprise her, and as they try to scare her, she mysteriously dies. In another interpretation, she dies from Rick killing her.
Wow.
Or from her fans killing her. or from a serial killer called the Hook Man, or from actual monsters killing her. There's a lot of interpretations, and we don't know which one is true.
Wow.
So basically, and it's a really cool thing. That's kind of where the gore comes in. The only real gore you see is in this comic book, and you actually play through like different panels of the comic in first person.
That's interesting too, because that kind of insinuates that she was found dead and they don't know what happened, to me.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, as a woman, is a fate that we are constantly afraid of experiencing.
I'm going to just leave that one alone.
Fair. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I don't know what to follow with that one.
There's not really... I mean, you said we were going to get dark. I'm just following the path you're making right here.
No matter the interpretation, we do find out how to get into the basement. Basically, there's a music box you have to do a certain thing to, and it reveals a key. Basically, she does it in the comic book, and then you realize you can do it in real life.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Down in the basement, we find Walter's room behind a fridge in a survival bunker.
This sounds very depressing.
So Walter lived from 1952 to 2005.
So he only lived... These people are dying well before old age. I mean, this is the longest lived person so far.
Yeah.
And he lived to like 53.
Yeah.
And he lived in a bunker.
He saw whatever it was that killed Barbara. He's the only one who was home, and she was babysitting him.
Oh.
So he knows the history of the family and decided to hunker in a bunker for 30 years, never leaving for fear of the curse that robbed him of his siblings, which is get therapy, but understandable. Like,
yeah, I'm surprised that just moving out of the house wasn't an option, but I guess we're dealing with the fantastical here. There might be some reason.
Yeah, and the bunker shakes every day from the passage of a nearby train as he opens cans of food, mostly peaches.
Millions of peaches. Peaches for free.
Finally, after 30 years of canned peaches and not living, he decides it's time to leave, and he breaks down the wall into an empty space beyond. And his first glimpse of outdoors in 30 years is his last as a train slams into him from behind.
I totally saw that coming.
Now, the funny thing people have pointed out is, why would you have a train on an island? Like, they're on an island. Like,
Yeah,
so it feels weird. It feels contrived. I have a theory on kind of what is really happening.
right.
So,
Right, I understand.
yeah.
And if it's contrived, it's very intentionally contrived. You can tell.
It is here as we continue exploring the house after seeing Walter's room that we find out that Edith is 22 weeks pregnant.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is partially the reason she is going through all of this, to kind of understand the history of the family. Also, at 22 weeks, she should not be doing all this crawling and climbing and everything.
Yeah, that's about the point where, like, for a lot of women, you start to show.
She does. As I
Yeah.
said, you can look down and see your character. She is visibly pregnant. It did not click for me because I thought it was just a weird bit of camera weirdness or like something.
And there's some women where, okay, we got a punch that sticks out just a little bit. You know, you don't want to judge for that, okay? Like, we're allowed to have that.
So we have new rooms open to us now because we can get up onto the third floor by climbing a tree. Something you should not be doing at 22 weeks.
Any kind of possibly falling from more than a couple feet, you should not be doing when you're pregnant.
Yeah. Third floor has Sam as an adult, Gregory, Dawn, and Gus's rooms.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have more rooms later still because we're not even up to the ones that go up onto the pillars yet.
My. Yeah,
These
okay.
ones on this floor are not sealed and barred. Sam's room is here as an adult, as I said. Sam is a Marine and a photographer and a hunter. His is probably the easiest death to understand. He takes his daughter Dawn on a hunting trip, and they're doing photography and stuff. After she bags her first buck, which she is crying over, basically saw it at the top of a cliff. She shot it. She's there crying over it. He sets up a timed camera, goes over. Turns out the buck was only mostly dead and rears up, and Sam is knocked off the cliff.
I do not like hunting And stuff like this is why.
But again, this is like probably one of the few that's actually like, okay, that
tracks.
Like, it's tragic and it's horrific for Dawn, and it's obviously bad for Sam, but it's the one that kind of feels like, oh, well, that makes sense. Hunting accents like that can happen.
Do you
like,
think that makes a lot of sense because it's one of the ones that probably Edith heard the most, because that's her maternal grandfather, right? Sam?
She didn't hear the story. She as you kind of stop looking at the pictures, Edith says, "I wish Mom had told me this story."
I don't know. I keep thinking of it as a journey on memory and like how we remember things, and how when you come from a bit, maybe I'm just thinking of it differently because I come from a family where like my parents were one of many siblings, and you hear stories different ways.
The thing is, people don't really talk about what happened to people.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Okay, scratch that. I'll have to play it to understand it. But still, it feels significant that one of the most believable stories is one of the ones directly related to Edith's lineage. Yeah.
Through a small crawlway, we see a baby gate and find a room with 3 beds set up like barracks. Gregory, Dawn, and Gus. Gregory is in a crib, Dawn has a bed that's no longer there, and Gus has a memorial. Gregory also has a memorial. We'll start with Gregory, January 76 to December 77.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to rush through this one because I broke down crying playing it for like 5 minutes.
Did he just... Never mind. Just
in Gregory's crib is a divorce paper with a letter from Sam to his ex-wife, Kay.
Oh.
Pre-divorce, Sam and Kay are going through a very rough patch, and she's giving Gregory a bath in the pink bathroom, and Sam just keeps calling. Now we know that room is boarded up for him. She's about to pull him from the bath after turning the water off when Sam calls again and they get into an argument again.
No, I know what's going... No.
During this, Gregory uses one of his toys to hit the faucet handle, and you can guess the rest of what happens. The game handles this in a hauntingly serene way, actually, where you are playing through his imagination. Basically, it's like a water dance and everything with the toys and everything.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, this... I had to stop playing after that scene.
And you said, so January...
23 months. Which is around the age of little buddy. We don't leave him alone in the tub. Calls and stuff can wait.
I will... I'll be honest, and it's just part of... I think it's just some people just have this instinct. But if I'm in the middle of doing something really important, scary, and my son is there, he comes with me because I know that he is more important possibly than whatever the heck I also have to handle.
Right.
Like, I just think that's something that's instilled in you from an early age. I don't know necessarily how.
Yeah.
And and it makes sense that coming from the family that Sam comes from, he'd be with Kay, who might also not... Like, Sam's siblings were kind of abandoned in a lot of the previous stuff, so that seems to be a lot of what happens to these children.
In fact, if you listen to the dialogue of what Sam and Kay are arguing about, it's like partially part about like the curse. Like they're arguing about like he's being paranoid and stuff. And that. So
and him calling again to start a fight about it just proved his own point.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awful. It's so awful.
It was heart-wrenching to play because I was sitting there the whole time like no.
I don't.
Yeah.
I just can't. Okay.
Let's move on. So, Dawn's story isn't here, so we move on to Gus. Gus was Edith's uncle. He was alive from 1969 till 1982.
Okay. So he got to be in his teens.
Yes.
There seems to be not a lot of parallels, but it's interesting there is a young, naive death in each generation, and
Yes.
now we both have a teenage death
Yeah,
in both
that's fair.
generations.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The account of his death is a poem written by Dawn. The story essentially is that Sam was getting remarried because he and Kay split up,
Yeah.
and Gus was against the idea and the fact that the ceremony was taking place on the beach by the Finch house, basically on their property. So he kind of secludes himself away and is flying a kite over the shore, purposely staying away from the celebrations, when a storm rolls in and chairs and debris begin being picked up stylistically by Gus's kite, but also by the wind. And as he flies the kite into the tent where the rest of the family is sheltered, the wind picks up the tent itself, and Gus is hit by the debris from the storm.
Wow.
Which completely subverted my expectations that he was going to get hit by lightning.
Yeah, that's probably very intentional.
Yeah, because there's lightning going off, and you're like, oh, he's going to get hit. He's going to do a Benjamin Franklin, but no.
No.
So.
No.
Well, Benjamin Franklin didn't die from it, but still.
Yeah, still. Yeah, and still also just as likely if you're going to be stubborn enough to fly a kite in a storm.
So after her younger brothers died, Dawn moved up into the loft of their shared bedroom, which was about as far as she could get while still being in the house at this point. She eventually did some charity work building houses in Calcutta, where she met Sanjay. Sanjay is Edith, Milton, and Lewis's father.
Okay.
Sanjay died when Edith was just 3 in an earthquake. Basically, he was doing some relief work, an earthquake hit, and he was one of the casualties.
Rocks fall, you die,
Yeah.
literally.
Dawn and the kids, with nowhere else to really turn to, ended up moving in with Edie. Now, they have to add a few more rooms, which is why the rest of the rooms they'll be going through are the ones up on the giant support beams.
Okay. So we're doing more climbing again, and part of me is somewhat remembering how uncomfortable it was to do anything when you had a human growing inside you.
Yeah. The first room we come across is Milton's, and his and Lewis' rooms are both sealed like the ones on the first floor, so we have to find other ways inside. Milton's room is actually a castle tower-shaped room.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we don't know what happened to Milton. More on that later, maybe. But we do know that he was a pretty prolific artist with paintings and cartoons and a flip book. Kid liked to do art. All we get of his story is a flip book about a magic paintbrush, which allows him to paint a door and go somewhere else. Now, interestingly, there's a painting that looks like the one in the flip book, but alas, we can't go through it.
Right. But that's also interesting, too. So, again, it's he's the one who went missing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wonder again if this is like the unfortunate, like, death of whimsy situation. It seems to happen every generation. There's at least 3 kids.
Yeah.
And there seems to be one that there's something very childlike about how they pass away.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
So I wonder if that's like maybe we can't confirm, but if he went somewhere he wasn't supposed to and then was never found.
So turning around from Milton's door, we find Lewis's boat room thing. Basically, it's like they took part of a boat and used it for the structure.
Oh, okay.
Entering the room, we were smacked by the smell of weed.
Okay, so this is the teenager?
Yes.
Okay.
Glow-in-the-dark posters on the wall, video games. I forget what it's called, but it looks like somebody mashed up a PlayStation 1 with a Nintendo 64 and a TurboGrafx.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Lewis possibly is the most heartbreaking in the end because this is the suicide one.
Oh, no.
And it's a story that I think could resonate with almost everyone at some point. Lewis takes Milton's disappearance hard and becomes a bit of a shut-in after he graduates.
Mm-hmm.
And that's until Dawn gets him a job at the local cannery.
Okay.
There he just slides fish into a head chopper off machine and pushes them onto a conveyor belt. That's all he does.
Wow.
He's all right at the job. It's monotonous, but he's also seeking professional help, and they help him get sober, too.
Oh, that's great.
As he sobers up, he starts to realize how mundane and boring his job actually is, so his mind starts to wander. We slog through his life of cutting off fish heads with our right hand. Our left hand will soon be busy as he imagines himself to be a questing hero in a 2D labyrinth, which we have to navigate with our left hand.
There's a lot of imagination going on, yeah.
He found bats and toads, and eventually as his imagination grew and let his mind wander more, the game gets better. Like, we get progressive upgrades to the game that represents his imagination from 2D to isometric to full 3D.
Oh, nice. Okay.
He meets a dog, he's made mayor of a town, and became an adventuring hero as he sails down rivers. The rivers also allow us to change his fictional life. Does he seek a beautiful prince or a handsome queen, for example?
Oh, interesting.
Meanwhile, we are still just shoving fish into the head chopper off machine.
Right. Which is
Yeah.
why he's able to imagine that so much.
Well,
so.
Like, literally, eventually the game that his imagination is all encompassing of the screen, but we still have fish falling and we still chop them off and throw them. Like,
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
in the end, Lewis realizes what he wants is his fictional life, and there's only one way he can see to do that. In his fiction, he must accept a crown from his prince or queen, and doing so requires him to kneel before them in a guillotine.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah. After Lewis's death, Dawn decided to get Edith away from Edie and from the curse that had taken over the Finch household, but she didn't tell Edie until the night they leave.
Which is why everything is packed in boxes. Yeah.
Edie wanted to tell Edith about the family curse and the stories of how her family lived and died, but Dawn blamed her grandmother's storytelling for the curse being reality. She felt that without those stories, the family wouldn't have been so unlucky in life. She therefore decides that her and Edith should leave Edie and the curse behind with the house, even if Edie insisted they cannot run away from it. They leave Edie at the house, and she passes that night, likely due to a drug interaction with some wine she had. That's not confirmed, but it's brought up during the dinner scene that
Oh,
you
interesting.
shouldn't drink that, your medications, blah, 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 you know.
Right.
So, Dawn would pass some years later from an advanced illness. We don't know what, but probably something that's terminal.
Yeah.
Well, of course it's terminal. She passes from it. Anyway, all we see of her passing is her hand in Edith's. Dawn's arm has a hospital bracelet on it, so assume she was getting some care.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves us with Edith as the last remaining Finch until she realizes she's pregnant with her unborn child. A new scene starts. We are floating in a purplish pink space moving towards a light.
Uh-oh.
Edith says she's not sure what to tell us about all of this, that if we live forever, maybe we'd understand, but all we can do is appreciate how strange and brief life actually is. The journal we've been reading is supposed to be for the unborn child, but Edith hopes they never see it because she wants to tell all the stories herself. But since we're reading the journal, things don't end up that way.
Yeah, I was afraid of that.
As we approach the light and the screen turns white, Edith says this is where our story begins, meaning the child, and sadly this is where her story ends. Her last words in the journal are that she is sorry that she can't be there to watch her kid's story start, and that they shouldn't be sad that she's gone. Quote, I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Our last shot is of a young boy closing the journal and putting flowers on his mother's grave.
Wow. Oh, man. Yeah, I think that's the part that's tearing me up.
So that's a dark game.
Whoa, is it a dark game?
But
Whoa.
it's a game with like this fantastical bend to it, and it kind of feels like a darker version of Big Fish, if you've seen that movie.
Yes. Well, you're the one who showed me that movie.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I can't remember that far back anymore.
It was a while ago.
So even if the stories are about how someone died, all these characters feel alive
Yeah.
in their life, with the exception of Walter, though he even strived to finally have a life again, even though it was far too brief.
This all feels really symbolic to me. Like it feels like it's referencing something else, a different idea. It's just using these these fantastical memories and journeys of experience with these people
Yeah.
to explore it.
It's almost like if you took normal people in the modern world and gave their lives as an oral history.
Yeah.
You know, everything has that kind of myth bend to it, like that.
But it feels like with this family in particular, there is something not ordinary happening in that household.
Yeah. Now, we do know through a game that I didn't know about until researching this.
Yeah.
What happens to Milton?
Oh.
In a not at all concrete sort of way. He is a character in the game, as an adult, in the game The Unfinished Swan, which is actually came out before this.
Interesting.
But didn't come out until after this on PC.
Oh.
So take that for what you will. So there is another layer that we'd have to dig into eventually. And yeah, there may be some theories or some ideas of what's happening. And of course, I didn't cover everything. There's a lot of texture to the game that we can't do because
right.
a lot of it is in the environment or in the way Edith is talking about things or in like the slow unraveling of things. So that might be some nuance that I'm missing in this rundown, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm surprised we didn't tear up that much during this, but behind the scenes spoiler, this episode has been recorded in 3 separate parts due to interruptions during the night.
I think the interruptions helped with that, and also you prefacing it throughout the week that this was going to be one that hits you in the feels, and it does, and I think that's part of the reason that like I'm somewhat steeled toward it, but it's very different from when you actually experience it. Like for example,
the scene with Gregory in the bathtub.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through that.
You're probably not going to get to it.
Thank you. I kind of don't want to play it
because it is a linear game in that sense. Like you have to go in this order. Mm-hmm. So you'll probably get to Barbara.
Okay.
You know, maybe. So, but yeah, the scene with Gregory was a hard one just because I like being a parent of a very small child. It's
oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it's in this weird way because, like, it's all about what he's imagining.
Yeah.
So he doesn't drown. He swims underwater and ends up going down the drain with the toys swimming. Like, it's... yeah.
Because that's what, I mean, and that's what kids are usually afraid of, too. So
right.
It makes sense that it's imagined like that, but it's just, I mean, that's a gut punch.
Yeah.
That is an absolute gut punch.
Walter with the train, that makes little sense in the location. Lewis, where his fictional world is so much more interesting than his real life, and you're playing his fictional world. It's
right?
just...
And you just wish that somebody had reached out and asked him to write it,
which is... Okay, so we're told his fictional world... I may have probably should put this in thing, but we're told it from a psychologist's letter, like laying out, because Lewis describes to her all this stuff, and she just didn't...
Why wouldn't you tell him to put it in some sort of productive outlet, even if it's just for himself?
Right.
To go back and visit.
Well, I think he was trying to, and here's why I think he was trying to. In his room and around the house, because there's tons of books and clutter around the house, but in his room we do find also like building games in C++ and stuff like that. So I think he was trying to actually maybe start that, but I don't think it got to him in time. But yeah, there's like somebody, everybody can find somebody in this game to be like, oh, that sounds familiar.
Right.
You know?
I part of me just thinks of it, and maybe it's because I come from a big family where we have these histories, and with certain parts of the family, there's these histories we don't talk about for very different reasons than, say,
right,
the Finches do.
Right.
But the idea that there's a matriarch at the top of this who perpetuated this curse,
Yeah.
it is interesting. It makes me think that the curse is not death. The curse is some other habit that the family has inherited.
Maybe.
And that's kind of how I'm thinking about it right now, having not played the game, just hearing you describe the story.
But the curse, if we want to take everything as actual truth, which is hard to do in a game like this.
Yes.
But if we take everything as actual truth, the curse predates Edie back to Norway and generations of her family.
But I feel like there's a lot of things like that in family lineage.
Yeah.
Abuse and trauma and, coping with that trauma. A lot of isms, alcoholisms, and addictions. And
I mean, we can also just break it down as you're in a house where people seal up rooms when people die. It's not a healthy way to imagine death. That has to be stress-inducing. That has to be whatever. Stress has effects on the body. People get sick. People have whatever. People, Molly could, it. There are so many ways this plays out just due to the fact that you're in a house that is constantly reminding you of death.
yeah.
So this was a feel-good episode, wasn't
Oh, my gosh. This is the episode we're doing before we take our vacation, right? So.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah, there's going to be a 2-week gap.
So we usually do 2 episodes a month, essentially,
Yes.
every other week. We are about to go back to the pilgrimage for us that is GenCon. Maybe we'll see you there, maybe not. I don't know. Feel free to add us at Twitter if you would like to say hi and all that. But one of the things that we will not have time for, because a lot of the work we do there is business related, is recording. So
our next episode is going to be on August 27th.
Yes.
And we're going to do our normal streams. We'll probably just do 2 episodes of Skies of Arcadia.
So this is how it's going to happen. It's crazy. We'll try to explain this really quickly. Next week's stream is going to be pushed to Saturday.
Yes.
Because of work on my end. Then
the following stream will be pushed to the week after.
We haven't chosen which day yet.
But one is going to be on Thursday, and one will probably be on Friday.
Yeah, we'll do it back to back. One Thursday, one Friday. And then we'll get back to our usual stream schedule, but we will be 1 episode short per usual in August because we're
just swamped right now.
We're so swamped. We're just so swamped. I'm waking up early to write for like 30 minutes because that's how swamped I am. So we really, really hope that you understand, and we appreciate you, and thank you so much. And
thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.